I want to share all of these tips with you, so make sure you watch to the very end, because I'm also going to give away one of my favorite essays. And if you want to receive this essay, you just have to do a few quick things. Nothing long. It's free as well. It's beautiful. It's like an art. Writing an essay is literally like an art, and there's ways you can learn to improve. There's ways you can learn to really hack it and write beautiful essays that convey a message, that convey your point of view, and that get you a first class. Welcome to my channel. My name is Lucille King. Today I'm going to be giving you some tips with real life examples so that you can also achieve a first class essay. I have written multiple first class essays as an undergraduate student. I'm telling you the things I wish someone had told me as an undergraduate, specifically giving me examples of what a first class essay looks like so that I can more easily write first class essays. So if this sounds like something you're interested in, make sure you grab a notebook, grab a pen, and take time to really digest this video. Now, I know this sounds like such an irony because it's literally the introduction, and you're probably thinking you need to write your introduction first, but no. Trust me when I say leave your introduction till the end of your essay. Writing your introduction last is the best thing you can do for your essay. It makes it so much easier, and it allows you to explain what you have written in your essay. Most of the time, you don't even know what you're writing in the body of your essay when you start. So it doesn't really make sense to try and already define your essay by writing what you're going to write about in your introduction. Just save yourself the stress and write your essay introduction last, okay? Trust me, guys. This tip really improved my essay writing. If you would like me to do a detailed video on how to write a first class essay introduction, then make sure you let me know in the comments. So the next tip is to make sure you structure your paragraphs in the PEE format. PEE stands for point, evidence, explain. It could also be point, explain, evidence, just depending on your writing style. It really doesn't matter. So long as you're making sure that your point comes first and you're explaining and giving evidence in the rest of your paragraph. The point is meant to introduce your readers to exactly what you intend to talk about in that specific paragraph. So I'm giving you an example from one of my favorite essays. I achieved a grade of 75 in this essay, and the title is Critically Discuss the Usefulness of Post-Colonialism in Helping Us Understand International Development. But don't worry if you don't understand the question, because what's important is understanding how I structured the paragraph rather than what I'm actually saying. Here's an example of a point I made in this essay. Another detrimental aspect of aid is that donors use it as leverage to obtain desired changes in economic policies in recipient countries. Now, this is the point, okay? And although this does not seem to relate to the question, it does in the long run. You just have to read the whole essay to understand, but that's just by the way. So here is an example of evidence I gave right after this point. I said, this is evident in the nature of most aid being tied to a number of preconditions exemplified by structural adjustment programs. So this is my evidence that illustrates another detrimental aspect of aid, and it gives a specific example of the point that I'm making. Now I go on to expand on my example and to explain. I said, before giving financial aid, the IMF and World Bank required the recipient countries to make structural changes. These changes include blah, 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 blah. So obviously I go on to expand on the points I've already made and give more specific examples of what I'm talking about. So further down the line, I offer quotations from various authors to support my point. I will not be reading this entire paragraph as this is a quick tip video. I'm giving away this essay for free, so I will not be reading the full paragraph. So make sure you stay till the end of the video to figure out how you can be involved in this essay giveaway. The next tip is to weave quotes into your sentences, okay? So enhance your essays by weaving in some quotes into your sentences. This makes you sound more professional, and it makes it nicer to read than if they were just standalone quotations, right? So here's an example. Same essay I'm reading from. The West is able to exercise ideological power to ensure that the Orient is not a, quote, free subject of thought or action, end quote, but rather constructed through discourse as the West's culturally inferior other. Cite, 1978, page 11. So as you can tell, I've really weaved in what Said said into my sentence to make it flow. It just makes it sound more professional. It makes you sound like you know what you're talking about, and it makes it less boring rather than giving a point or writing something, then giving a citation and then continuing from there. This makes it flow very nicely, and it makes you sound a lot more professional and academic. Another example is, this understanding of the productive power of development discourse is important because it illustrates how, quote, the third world has been produced by the discourses and practices of development since their inception, end quote, and thus provides that, quote, knowledge is not meant for understanding, it is meant for cutting, end quote. So as you can see in this sentence, I have weaved in citations from two different authors, both very key known thinkers in the international relations theory. It elevates your writing, and this is what this video is all about, to elevate your writing for the reader to really see what you're saying and think, this person really knows what they're talking about. Tip number 4 is probably one of the most important tips, and the tip is to make sure you have an answer for your question before you start writing. Trust me, guys, this is vital. Don't just start writing thinking you can get inspiration along the way. It's not the best thing to do. I'd say take time to research, think about your answer to your question, have an answer before you start writing. This may seem like common sense, but I'm just breaking it down to the students who are really unsure of how to write a first-class essay. So bear with me if this sounds very mundane. My advice would be to stop writing if you've already started and really focus on research. Now, if you know the answer to your question, then go ahead and research around that answer. But if you're unaware of the answer to your question, then make sure you do research with the intention of gaining an answer to your question. Now, similar to the point before, please do not sit on the fence. Don't play both fields. Don't sit in the middle. Make sure you have a one-sided argument. Now, I mean one-sided with a pinch of salt, and I'm going to explain that later. But what I'm trying to say is make sure that you're not, in the middle and saying you believe in both sides of the argument, which is okay if you do, but it's an argumentative essay. You're supposed to get your point across in a way that you're trying to convince the reader that what you believe and the side that you believe in more is the right answer. Let me give you an example. One of my essays was asking me to discuss the notion that the reality of international relations is socially constructed. Now, I could have said, I don't believe the reality of international relations is socially constructed because blah, 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 blah. Or I could argue the opposite. Yes, I believe that the reality of international relations is socially constructed because blah, 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 blah. And I said in my introduction that this essay aims to prove that the reality of international relations is socially constructed through how social facts such as norms and ideas, quote, influence states' identities and interests and the very organization of world politics, end quote. Now, I could have argued the exact opposite, but still received a good grade because an argumentative essay isn't so much about what your argument is, it's rather about how you support your argument. The how is literally more important than the what, although obviously it has to make sense and it still has to be a logical and relevant answer to the question. The next tip would be to critique your critics. Going back to what I said about the pinch of salt when I said make sure your answer is one-sided, I don't mean one-sided as in you're only discussing one side of the argument. You are meant to also bring up the opposing side of the argument and critique that and express to your reader why the opposing argument is wrong. It's like being a lawyer. You're defending someone and you have to refute the opposing lawyer's argument, making your side seem more believable and, seem like the truth in the eyes of the judge. That's exactly how I would describe writing an argumentative essay. You're explaining it from your point of view. You're trying to convince your reader that you are right. And in convincing the reader you're right, you are trying to convince the reader that the other side is wrong. So let me give you an example of how I did that. The question is, to what extent does Lenin build upon Marx's analysis of capitalism? Hi guys, so I'm editing this essay back and I wanted to give further clarification as to what my main hypothesis is for this essay, just so that this tip really does make sense when I read out the example. Anyways, this is what I mentioned in my introduction, and my main hypothesis is that I wanted to prove that Lenin's theory of imperialism builds and improves on Marx's analysis of capitalism. Now I wrote, contrarily, it can be argued that Lenin does not contribute to the analysis of capitalism because he does not theorize on class. In my opinion, by confining capitalism to social class, Marx ultimately limits his analysis. Lenin, however, expands capitalism by projecting class from a domestic level to an international level, in which core nations are the bourgeoisie and the periphery nations are the proletariat, as mentioned earlier. So as you can see in this example, I've stated the opposing side and I've given my opinion as to why the opposing side isn't very strong. My critics say that Lenin does not contribute to the analysis of capitalism because he does not theorize on class. And I've taken that and I've made it into a positive. I've used that to strengthen my argument by saying that, in my opinion, confining capitalism to class, like Marx does, limits his analysis. So as you can see, I am including the opposing argument into my essay, but I'm including it in a way that actually strengthens my essay. So it's a win-win because the reader is understanding that I have done research and I know the opposing side, and I still don't side with the opposing side because my side is just better. This is how you write an argumentative essay. You're meant to use everything you can to try and defend your point of view. The next tip I can give you is to plan your essay very, very well. Guys, when I tell you I don't start writing my essay without thoroughly planning exactly what I'm going to add into my essay. I dissect it, I write my first point out, second point, third point. I literally read, I plan, I write it all down. It gets messy on a huge, massive sheet of paper. An essay planned very well will likely do very well. It's so much easier and quicker to write an essay after planning it thoroughly. This, in my opinion, should be your focus. This is the thing I focus on the most. This takes most of my time. And this consists of knowing or figuring out your answer, as we mentioned earlier, and writing out your points and laying out the research that supports each point. But please let me know in the comments if you want a detailed video on how to plan a first class essay, because there's a lot that goes into it and this is a quick tip video. So make sure you let me know in the comments if you would like me to explain how I plan my essays. But just as a summary, what I do is I just get a notebook and I start researching. When I think of or read an idea that I'd like to incorporate into my essay, I think, okay, should this be point 1, 2, or 3? I'm writing down my point 1, and as I'm reading, I'm adding on to my point. So if point 1 is about how aid is negative because of structural adjustment policies, as I'm reading and I come across that, I'm going to add it onto my plan. I'm scribbling it down. I'm writing the citations that I come across. I'm writing the page number. So I'm building a case. As I'm reading, I'm building my case. When I find something that relates to my point for paragraph 2, I'm going to add that onto my plan. It gets messy, but it makes so much sense in the end because you've planned it all out. So when you start writing, it's so much easier for you to do, and I guarantee that it will take your essay writing to the next level. Planning thoroughly is so important. Like I said, let me know in the comments if you want me to post a detailed description on how I plan my first class essays, and I will do that for you. The next tip would be that aesthetics matter. Make sure you are, using things like font size and line spacing to make your essay look neater, so that your reader sees your essay and thinks, this looks good already. It's probably gonna read very well. So make sure that you're using the specific things that your university tells you, whether that may be writing Times New Roman or double line spacing and justified. Make sure that it looks neat. It comes across as better and more professional. Next tip would be to cite some more. Make sure you're using multiple sources to back your essay up. I use multiple sources, and that's why usually my bibliography is very long, I'm going to give you an example of how long my bibliographies usually are, sometimes 2 pages long. That just shows the reader that I've done so much research to support my point of view. Make sure you're adding in as many citations as you can, but don't overwhelm your essay with quotations so that you're just writing quotations, but make sure that you're supporting each point with multiple sources from multiple different things. It could be from journals, it could be statistics from the internet, it could be from academic books, it could be from so many different sources. So make sure that you're supporting your arguments with different citations from different authors that are well known and are reputable as well. Now, the last thing I'd say is make sure you are writing on a topic that you're interested in or at least passionate about. It does help, you know, when you're passionate about what you're writing about. Now, this isn't always possible because some universities don't allow you to choose your essay question. For those of you that are able to choose, obviously make sure you're choosing something you're at least interested in. Obviously, that's kind of common sense, but I just wanted to reiterate that this is what has helped me write first-class essays because I'm actually interested in what I'm writing about. I found my degree quite interesting as well, and I gravitated towards certain things. Make sure that you've subscribed to my channel, follow me on Instagram, and just DM me and just send me your email. You're not gonna wanna miss out on this. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it's been helpful to you. Please make sure you subscribe and hit the like button so that I know it's been useful, and let me know in the comment section if you want me to produce anything different or if you want me to expand on anything. Let me know in the comment section. Yeah guys, thank you so much for watching again. Bye.